I'm Brian Briscoe, host of the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. And this is a first deal episode where we walk through what it takes for someone to find, fund, and close on their first apartment complex. And if you're an aspiring investor yourself, you are probably trying to do exactly the same thing. So before we get to this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and the little notification bell to make sure you get notified every single time we post a new episode. And now, enjoy the show. What advice would you give, somebody who's say 6 to 12 months behind where you're at right now?
I would say go 50 units and above and start. I mean, they say pick a throwaway market, start working there, and honestly do it. Pick a city and then just write those LOIs, make those phone calls, have people hang up on you, tell you're not experienced enough, and you'll figure it out. People are professional, and along the way, it's probably the most accepting and helping and supportive community I've found in the professional world.
All right. Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. We're doing something a little bit different today. This is actually a podcast where we have a live audience today. We got several members of the Tribe of Titans community with us today. And, they'll be able to pop their questions into the chat in the very end, be able to ask any of the questions that they want. So hybrid event, where we're merging the podcast and our Tribe of Titans. So super excited today to introduce Coty Dolan. So Coty, first of all, welcome to the show.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what we're going to talk about today, understand you recently closed on a 50 unit apartment complex in Brooksville, Florida. Did I get that right?
We're about to close.
About to close. Okay.
Yes, sir.
About to close on the 50 unit apartment. Now, Brooksville, where in Florida is that? Is that close to one of the big MSAs?
Yeah, Brooksville's in the Tampa MSA. We're about 50 minutes flat from downtown Tampa.
Okay. 50, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I guess the military guy in me, 50. That's anyway. I think Nkrumah recognizes where that comes from, but anyway. So cool. So Brooksville, Florida, your Tampa MSA, you're about to close on 50 units. Before we jump into the deal, let's talk a little bit about you. Do us a favor, tell us about your background and kind of walk us in, where you came from to how you got into apartments.
Absolutely. So where I came from is I was in the Navy for a little bit, got out in 2017 and went into hospitality management. That was kind of the family trade. My mom owns restaurants and didn't want to work for her, but thought I wanted to be in there. I was a food and beverage director at a golf resort and absolutely miserable.
Okay.
It was on paper, right? Great job, benefits and salary. And I realized wow, I don't think I can do this for the next 30 years.
Right.
And to be honest, really got into real estate then. Picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that's, I feel like so many people, right? That lit the spark, was like, all right, I need to get in real estate. I quit my job. I started as a real estate assistant at a property management company, got my real estate license, was selling real estate, started buying the small single family burr properties. And we were buying in Tampa. I think we were talking before we
Yep.
started recording, but I'm from the area I'm from in California. I was never going to buy a cash flowing property that even that I could afford.
Mhm.
Also,
Now, I've got to ask the question because of where you are. You mentioned food and beverage in the golf industry. Was that in the area you're at right now? Because there's a lot of golf courses,
yes,
world-class golf courses where you're at.
Yeah, that was where I'm at here in Monterey Peninsula, California. Yep. I'm from Pacific Grove, California.
Yep.
And I mean, the median home value has been above $1 million, even since before the recession.
Yep.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's where Pebble Beach is at. I don't think everybody knows, Pebble Beach and Monterey, and there's also, come August, you're going to see Lamborghinis and Ferraris. They have gigantic car shows where they turn these golf courses into, lots where you got crazy, ridiculous cars that are all over the place. But anyway, I'm still a little jealous that you're there and I'm not, but if that didn't come through. But anyway, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad here, except it's expensive. So
it is.
So I mean, it was quite the process, right? A year and a half from, all right, I'm going to invest in real estate before we bought a property, my wife and I. Mm-hmm. But after teaching myself everything, long distance, I was real estate investing, really got bigger pockets, right? Mm-hmm. All the books, and taught myself like, all right, I had the confidence I can go buy some small properties long distance. Mm-hmm. We're buying in Tampa, great market. It's turned out well. Tampa's had a few good years of real estate.
Yeah. Now let's go back on your decision point. Why did you pick Tampa? And actually, let's answer that one first, and then I'll hit you up with a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was in property management, as I said, and we here in California, it's pretty big nightmare, the whole tenant landlord laws. And quickly, I was like, well, I'm not buying here based on that.
Yes.
I saw a gentleman that owned a house probably worth $650,000 that was renting it for like $2,200 a month or something. Mm-hmm. And the tenant decided to stop paying. And it was 2 years, $80,000 for the landlord. Well, the tenants got to sit in his house destroying it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looked up, all right, where are some fair places, right? Mm-hmm. A big thing about the whole eviction thing is people think it's like, oh, the mean landlord's coming to kick people out. In reality, you're protecting the whole community, right? Yeah. When you have tenants that flat out say, I'm not paying rent, that means they've gone past the phase of, hey, I'm having a hard time. I might not be able to pay this month. They're at the stage where they're just defiant. And when there's no ownership and where you're living, it'll ruin the quality of life for the other tenants as well.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, we saw that a little bit during COVID where we couldn't evict people and people were not paying, and there's a pride in ownership, even if you're paying rent. There's still a certain pride that comes with that. But once you take that away, nobody appreciates things that are given out for free. And if your housing's free, the typical response is to not appreciate it. It's crazy how it works, but I think it should be the opposite. But yeah, that's exactly how it works. And I think the state of California, I don't want to own any rentals there right now either.
I say it's places that lean one way or might be better to visit, right? Yeah. I want to visit and stay in the south of France, but probably not going to do a ton of real estate investing in France.
Right. That's a good point. Really good point. So let's talk, transition from single family to multifamily. What kind of lit that fire or, created that spark, and how did you go about learning more about it?
Well, the original plan was my wife and I were each going to buy 10 properties each, right? Mm-hmm. Max out our loans in over 10 years. And then in 10 years, we're going to refinance, sell them. We'll buy an apartment building and live happily ever after. It was great until kind of realized how, the scaling of real estate is crazy, that doing the work on a $60,000 2-bedroom, 1-bath house is almost more work than buying an apartment building.
Yes.
And it was after hitting some home runs, right? Doing the Burr deal is great. Hey, we hit our refinance number. We got to pull out cash and now we're still cash flowing. It's great, but $250 a month cash flow is nothing to, it's not even going to really boost your lifestyle, right? It helps long term, but realizing overseeing turns, right? So you go through a couple of turns, you're like, well, there was 2 months of revenue on on my entire asset. And from there, I was like, all right, Grant Cardone says always go bigger.
Yeah.
Well, let's start looking more into this. Like, what does it mean? I've proven myself I can invest in real estate, long distance. This opens up a lot of stuff. So we were, self-education, right? Read a bunch of books, started shifting from looking at how to burr to how do I buy small apartments. And through that, realized there's no reason to buy small apartments. You should probably just start over 20 units, because 4 through 20 is honestly more of a pain in the butt than 50 through 100.
Yeah. It takes about as much work to run a 50 unit as it does a 15 unit. And I can say that from experience, because guess what? I've got a 50 unit and I've got a 15 unit. And, we probably spend more time on the 15 unit because you can, is kind of how it is. With the smaller properties, I think a lot of landlords get down into the details way too much. Well, what did Mrs. Jones say type stuff? You don't even need to get to that level. And when you get into the 50 units, you still have the same, you can still manage it well, but you don't get down the rabbit holes nearly as much. But anyway, my 2 cents. I think you're absolutely right. If you want to get into apartments, there's a point where you get too big, but go for 20 and above, and get as big as you can get in that 20 and above area. I think so. Good points there.
Absolutely. I mean, we really like the expenses are paid for. With smaller properties. Everything is, you're pinching pennies almost, right? Trying to get your profits up. Yep. With a larger project, you have a better pro forma, you have a better sense of your expenses, and they're budgeted for. And they're not just taken away from the cash you would be getting. Yeah. They're expected.
Yep. Yeah. And it's built into the price as well. So it's a much different market. The price is based on the cash flow for the most part. And, if you're not getting enough cash flow to cover all of your expenses, it's not worth doing the deal. And that's actually reflected in the price. Typically, in today's market, it's a little more of a seller's market. So you're paying a premium for stuff like that. But in general, you're going to cash flow is the answer, and you're going to appreciate it.
Yeah. For instance, like how banks they're not going to give you the loan if it's an awful deal. Yeah. Right. So there's some hedges the bigger you go, right? There's lawyers, there's insurance. Yeah.
And you get a lot of eyes on it. I mean, if the conservative bank underwriters say it's a good deal, it's probably a good deal, And if they're looking at you and say, we're not even going to give you 50% of the purchase price, guess what? It's not a good deal. But I think that's a really, really good point. Contrast single family, as long as you have the income, they're going to give you the loan. So
I'll even tell you now, and it's not the same as the early 2000s by any means, but being a realtor, I mean, over the last 2 years, I saw a lot of 95% LTV loans going out based on income alone. Yeah. And is that safe? Who knows?
That's not what happened. I think banks are a lot more cautious right now, even though prices have inflated. The banks are a lot more cautious now. They're not going to repeat it, the same mistake. But anyway, let's start talking about this 50 unit in Tampa. So let's look at the team that you have brought together to do this deal. Tell us how you brought people together and how you're working together.
Absolutely. It's a great story, how we all came together and how I got the property. So I started when I decided to dive full steam ahead in multifamily, paid for mentorship because I really had no time to waste. I felt like I was like, this is what I'm doing now. Let's go. And from that, I instantly started writing letters of intent. I Googled how to write one, started writing them. and I wrote on like a 220 unit building in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And the broker got back to me. He was like, "Hey man, you're new, aren't you?" And I was like, yeah. And he's like, "Okay, let me give you some pointers here." He's like, "One, nobody's going to sell you a unit building in Tampa with no experience." And I was
Yes.
like, "Well, thank you." And he's like, "But like, hey, like I'll keep you in mind." And I was like, "Sure, mister, thank you."
Yeah.
Sorry. And then a couple months later, it's probably 2 months later, he sent me a property. He's like, "Hey, this might be perfect for you. It's 50 units. It's close enough to Tampa that you can break into the market. And it's bite size. Like you'll be able to take it down." I was like, "Hey, thank you very much." I was coincidentally in the area, went and visited it like 2 days later, and wrote up an LOI, got it accepted.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, holy cow. What do I do from here?"
What now?
Yeah. So the reason I was in town is I was in Orlando for a real estate conference. And at the conference, I believe I toured the property on like a Tuesday. Conference was on Thursday. And they had like a Shark Tank type deal where you could pitch it to experienced investors. And I was like, "I'll do this. I think it's a good deal." So I did it. And then one of the guys on the panel, he was also my mentor, but he was like, "Hey, let's talk about this deal some more. Like, is that real?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is real. Let's go over the financials together, but I'm pretty sure this is a smoking hot deal." He's like, "Yeah, you're right. Good job finding this." He's like, "If you need, I'll be your key principal." And I was like, "Perfect." And anybody that's new, not a key principal, is the experienced person on a general partner team that brings the experience for the lenders and the real estate owned, shows that you are not just winging it.
Yeah. And going back to the lenders that we talked about earlier and going one step deeper on what you just said, the lenders want a good deal for them. And they're going to be extremely conservative, and they want to see that you have experience on your team running large properties, and they're kind of one of the biggest gatekeepers. Brokers and lenders are the two biggest gatekeepers in the market. But the lender wants to see that you have experience on your team and you'll be able to actually handle the opportunity, which and that's why you need the KP if you're starting out, because the lenders want you to have experience on your team, and you have that dog chasing his tail type situation where it's like you have to have experience to get experience. It's just took me a while to wrap my head around that one, but I get it now. So your mentor came in as KP for you, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, one thing I need to say, I'm actually surprised that your broker actually explained that to you. Most of the time when I started out, brokers would probably just completely write me off when I was asking for those 220 unit deals and never respond to my emails, never respond to my texts. But you got a good one who actually said, "Look, dude, you got no business here."
It was awesome. It was right. It's honestly, it's that thing of not being afraid of looking stupid. You can just keep failing forward. And I would think my first 2 months of like dedicating to being in multifamily, I probably wrote 200 LOIs. And from that, I mean, probably 90% of the brokers blacklisted me.
Yep.
But I begun to get emails from brokers and on their lists, even if they're like, if it's just put in their system, once you start getting on these brokers lists, you start getting the deals before they go for public, right? And that's where you can get deal flow.
Yeah.
And it was just a big learning experience, and drinking from a fire hose and being okay with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually absolutely key. You got to go into it with a growth mindset. And there's two sides of every coin. I encourage people to go fast, but try to go smart, and do a little bit of both. I think the way that I did it is, you learn from your mistakes, you fall forward. And I made dozens and dozens and dozens of mistakes. My first offer was an email to a broker with a number in it. And the number was about $1 million short of the price that the property actually sold for. I didn't even know an LOI existed, and I just said, "Hey, how about 3.8 million?" And she's like, "No, we're pretty sure we're going to get high fours for this." like, oh crap, but it was my first offer.
Yeah.
Didn't work well, but
Turned out well though.
it did. It started something. It's what you said. You can't be afraid of looking stupid, and I probably looked ridiculously stupid to that broker, but it started something. It was action. It was me falling forward, and that's exactly. I like how you put that. You fall forward, you get back up, and you're 2 feet ahead of where you were when you fell down, or 5 feet ahead if you can really stretch. But all right, so found the deal. Let's talk about deal structure. Are you syndicating, JVing? How are you putting this deal together?
We are doing a syndication.
Okay.
It's 70-30
Okay.
LPGP split. And what are we raising? We're raising just shy of $2 million for the deal. And which, here's another thing. Future projects, we're looking a little bigger because we're in an odd zone where it's kind of maxing out some family and friends, but it's also a little too small for a lot of accredited investors.
A lot of the bigger guys. Yep.
And that's, things honestly get easier with the bigger deals.
Yeah. I've had investors look at, like, my first deal was 55 units. I had an accredited investor look at the pitch deck, and he literally said, I like you. I like the numbers. What I don't like is there's only 55 units. He's like, my personal philosophy is I don't invest in anything less than 100 units, and there are a lot of, the more, and I'm not using the SEC term sophisticated, the dictionary term, there's more of the sophisticated investors out there that have their own criteria. And it's usually not the 26 unit or the 32 unit. So there's a lot of give and take in there as well. If you go after the 50 unit, a lot of the institutional companies, a lot of the experienced syndicators aren't going to touch that stuff. So it's easier for the newer guy to get in on that one. And that's why the broker sent it to you. But at the same time, you're going to be, like you said, maxing out your friend and family to get to that first deal.
Yes, sir.
So,
and it's, and always it's new, right? You do new stuff. Everything is scary. I would say every step in the first deal that I was scared, excuse my language, scared shitless, like every step of the way, right? From the broker called me back, or broker sent it to me. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And then writing an LOI, touring, and every step is terrifying. And then it's like, and then it's not. Right? Then it's just not. It's not like, oh, it lingers away. It's you do it. You're like, that wasn't that bad. And the more of that you do, you just kind of gain confidence that you can overcome the next obstacle. And I've also told myself, hey, this is part of it. If I can't figure out these steps to get this done, it's nothing new. Other people do it. This is how you play the game. And if you want to be in it, this is part of it. Yeah,
it's part of it. Be uncomfortable, start doing things you're not used to. And you'll eventually be used to doing it. I remember $6 million deals used to scare me. Anything above 5 million at one point used to scare me, because it was like, now we're going to have to raise closer to 2 million. Oh my goodness, I don't think I could do that. And it's interesting. The more you're around people that do it, the more that you're looking at deals like this, the more comfortable you get with those bigger numbers, and the more realistic it becomes at being able to tackle the larger deals. I mean, you obviously have to be able to raise the capital. You obviously have to be able to bring sponsors and attract the right people to come in with you. But yeah, I like how you said that. You get used to it. You get out of your comfort zone, and you keep on falling forward, and you keep on pushing your own limits.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the process from contract to close. You did mention a little bit about raising capital, but were there any really big hitches or any big lessons learned along the way?
Yes, you have to order the title survey right away. No, there's just learning. I would say more learning stuff. It's much different. I'm a real estate agent too, and it's completely different. Especially buying in Florida, you're using lawyers to buy apartment buildings. You're not negotiating just the stuff yourself. I would say one area I probably wasn't as prepared for was the negotiating. There's a lot more give and take. It's not just that was the contract.
Yep.
There's a lot more, hey, can we do this? And then it's, yeah, we can do that. Everybody's kind of working towards the common goal. It's so much less subjective.
Yeah.
Which is refreshing.
If
we
go ahead.
Sorry. We wrote into our contract that we all right, due diligence starts when we receive all these documents. Mm-hmm. And with the smaller properties, mom and pop run, it was definitely like pulling teeth trying to get all of the stuff we needed. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just us, right? Insurance and lenders need stuff too. But that's something that pushed us back farther than we thought. Mm-hmm. And was kind of more worried than anybody else was. But everybody's like, yeah, it's happening. It's just moving along like this.
Yeah. As long as you're reasonable in your requests, you're going to be okay, and a lot of times when you get towards the contract deadline, I think what most sellers are worried about is that they keep on getting strung along and not closing. But if everybody's confident that you're going to be able to close, you can usually work through that, fairly easy. And most sellers are fairly reasonable if, you look like you're going to close. If you're a hot mess and you're all over the place, you might get a seller that's just like, I'll just take your earnest money and we're going to put this back on the market, but it happens. But
being professional gets you a long way, and being nice, right? You don't have to be, you can just be yourselves. You don't have to be a hard ass and put your foot down and take things personal. Like if sellers are dragging their feet, maybe they're disorganized.
Yeah. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe they're sick. There's lots and lots and lots of reasons for that. But, we try to turn on documents 24 hours. That's kind of our own policy is, once somebody asks you for something, you drop everything to be able to try to, produce whatever the document it is within 24 hours. But not everybody's always on the same timetable. And quite frankly, I think when you're dealing with mom and pops, a lot of the documents that you want, they just don't have, It's like, I don't even know what that is, it's like, okay. But
exactly.
Go back to one thing that you mentioned. You said you have to order the title survey up front. On our first deal, I had a mentor who was in a mentorship program, and probably about a month and a half in, he's like, "Did the title survey come back clean?" And I'm like, "The what?" He's like, "The title survey." I'm like, "Okay, I'll get right on that." And same thing. I mean, fortunately, in this case, it didn't delay closing, but the title survey came back and it wasn't. They found an issue and we had to clear it up. But like I said, it didn't delay closing. But that's one of those things where it could have. And we just closed on a property as a seller where that title survey came back and found something that did delay closing. So it is what you mentioned earlier. I just want to point out is actually a really good tip. I think you glossed over it, but we've had a couple of situations where what comes up on that title survey has impacted closing.
Absolutely. Similar situation. We got the prelim in, and I was like, checked it off my due diligence doc list of, we got the title. And then my mentor is like, hey, how's the survey? And I was like, I'll send it over. He's like, this is not the survey. I was like, oh
yeah. Yeah.
So it works out, but I would say that was probably our biggest mess up.
All right. How's the lending gone? Because that can often be the trickiest part to navigate.
That is so lending has been solid. We were able to get in contacts with a couple good mortgage brokers. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with paying broker fees because especially in what we're doing more value add plays right now. Mm-hmm. So we're using bridge loans. So it's not just the agencies, which are pretty consistent, right? Yep. But so we found a couple of good debt products. I finally selected a broker that I was going to look through. David, one of my partners, selected a broker, and we both kind of compared what they gave us. we ended up going with the guy I brought forward just because they were similar products, but just little similar or differences, right? And it's been solid. We did we're kind of negotiating right now on our, right? There's huge rate bump recently. And what we're feeling is they got a little scared, bumped it up, and now we're going to be able to get it down again.
Did you guys opt to pay like a loan cap insurance or anything like that? Or did you guys let it ride and wait to see what happens?
So we paid a cap, but they pretty much were like, sorry, it's too big. Like I understand.
Yeah.
So
they went from a point to where now they're losing money and they can't lose money.
Exactly. And I mean, mortgage rates were kind of dangerously low for the last 2 years, and it's fine, right? It's like, getting a bridge loan at 6.5 is that would have been a screaming rate in 88. So
3 years ago, bridge products were 6. Our first property, we bought it at 4.92, and that was 2019. It was mid 2019. First half of 2019, it was normal to get a 5% loan on agency, and that's, we've had a couple of years where, rates were extremely low, and, a lot of people were able to take advantage of it, which, personally, I hope rates come back down because I want to take more advantage of low rates.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the closer you get to 2%, it's free money. I think I saw there's some bridge products out there like 3.99 last year, and it's like, that's a normal mortgage. Why would you go with an agency loan?
We got 2 bridges at 3.7s last year.
And it's
So
it's a healthy number, right? Even at 7%, it makes you more honest, right? Is it really a deal or not? And we had always, in our preliminary underwriting, I had much higher based on what I saw. I was doing it based on what I had seen in single family bridges. And then initially was pleasantly surprised by a lower rate. And now we're at basically what we're expecting.
Yeah. And interestingly, there was a point, and I think we're back to normal, but there was a point where it was the rates on a Fannie Freddie were actually lower than a rate on a single family owner occupied purchase, conventional loan. So, it's one of those things that makes you scratch your head a little bit. But anyway, debt markets are interesting right now. But anyway, so you guys are going to be closing soon. So let's talk about this. What advice would you give, somebody who's, say, 6 to 12 months behind where you're at right now?
I would say go 50 units and above and start. I mean, the advice, I had great advice. The Michael Blank programs, who I did my mentorship with, small little plug there. But they say pick a throwaway market and start working there. And honestly, do it, because you can learn. If you love a market and you're like, this is where I want to invest, don't mess up. The commercial real estate brokers are a small community, especially the producers, even in a large MSA. And so don't mess up there. Pick a city and then just write those LOIs, make those phone calls, have people hang up on you, tell you're not experienced enough, and you'll figure it out. People are professional, and along the way, it's probably the most accepting and helping and supportive community I've found in the professional world is the multifamily game. And go on LinkedIn, be like, hey, I'm doing this. Does anybody have advice? Somebody will find you. Join groups, just self-educate the heck out of yourself. And it's a simple turnaround. 1 year, your life will be completely different. You can buy an apartment, like from the day you decide, hey, I want to buy apartments. 1 year later, like you'll have the skill, knowledge, ability if you dedicate yourself to go
and
do it.
And you may even have an apartment too.
You may even have an apartment or two.
Yeah. For me, I think from when I also did Michael Blank coaching, by the time the 1 year coaching program was up, we had 3. So, I had decided to do it probably 6 months prior. So it really depends on when you hit the stopwatch. I think 1 year is probably average for people who decide to do it and really commit, So 1 year is about average. Some people are faster, some people are slower, but I appreciate that. So what's next for you?
Absolutely. This is So exciting. So I met just through doing what I'm doing, right? Being out there, letting people know what I'm doing. I had a gentleman who owns a large company in my area, Pacific Grove, Monterey Peninsula, reach out to me. They do commercial construction, and so long story short, we've partnered up, and we're looking to buy some larger projects. But we are offering on a 418 unit building up in the Bay Area that we are extremely excited about because
Bay Area, California, or Tampa Bay?
Bay Area, California, actually.
Okay.
Of course, I'm moving, and now we find it's something you always hear, right? I've even made videos saying don't invest in California and New York.
Yep.
But like we also talked about with the expenses, is at a certain level, a certain amount, the revenue is going to cover those expenses and those pitfalls. Mainly, right? Legal in California is something that'll get you taxes, insurance. But with this project we found, it's looking like it's going to be a really great deal.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I have said I don't want to invest in California. And I'm sure the people in California who are investing are just laughing all the way to the bank thinking, man, I'm so glad nobody likes to invest in California, but a lot of goodness there. So, well, hey, thanks a whole lot. Actually, one more question for you, and then we're going to open it up to questions from our group. But how can listeners learn more about you?
Absolutely. I make myself super accessible. I would say LinkedIn, I'm most active on. Coty J. Dolan. You'll find me on there. Instagram, it's at Coty J. Dolan. Where else? I have a Twitter at Dolan Cap, but mainly LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm super responsive. I love talking real estate with people. Think you can schedule meetings with me too. So reach out, come find us.
Okay. And we'll put links to all that in the show notes to his profiles. And if you're going to, hand type it in, it's Coty with a T, not Coty with a D, but Coty J. Dolan. Look him up and connect with him. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for coming on the show, and very much appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Brian. Thank you so much.
Hey, if you like that episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But more importantly, if you haven't joined our multifamily educational community, the Tribe of Titans, yet, you are missing out. So get yourself 30 days free by clicking the link below in the description, or go to thetribeoftitans.info, and we'll see you there.